I like to start with laughter. That's good. That's really good. All right. All right, we're going to get started, everybody. Get started. All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's candidate forum for two races: California Supervisors District 5 and Mendocino County Judge. Today's nonpartisan event is sponsored by the Mendocino Women's Political Coalition and CloudForce Institute. Thank you very much. My name is Christine Rodriguez, and I will be tonight's moderator. So first, we're going to do a land acknowledgement. This was written by MWPC member Lois Lockhart, who's also known as Redwood Flower, daughter of Ceremonial Chief Ukiah of the Sherwood Valley Rancheria Band of Pomo. Today, we honor the homeland of the First Nations people of Mendocino County. There are 11 tribal communities. 10 tribes are federally recognized, and one is not. The Mendocino Women's Political Coalition acknowledges that the land on which we live, work, and enjoy has been the unceded territory of the First Nations tribal people since time began. We offer recognition and respect to counter the doctrine of discovery with the true story of the original tribal people who are here, and to support the reconciliation of a government-to-government relationship of these sovereign nations. We are surrounded by their traditional ancestral territory, and we must strive to understand the spiritual knowledge First Nation peoples carry. Their strong cultural values have enabled First Nations resilience to survive. Well, thank you for the applause. It's wonderful. So tonight's forum is being broadcast on Facebook Live, and the recording of the forum will be available both on the MWPC YouTube channel and on KZYX, which will be rebroadcast on Monday at 7 p.m. Tonight, I'm going to call on each candidate by name to aid those who may be listening by audio only. So I'll call your name so that people who are listening will know who's answering. We ask that both candidates and audience members keep their phones on silent or turned off or on silent. So the whole forum today will be about 2 hours, and we aim to end around 8 p.m. The forum for County Supervisor District 5 will go on till about a little after 7 p.m., at which time we'll transition to the candidates for judge. We do strongly suggest that you hold applause after individual answers, both to allow us to fit in more time for more questions, and also because when it's in an audio format, the applause can be very difficult for people who are watching a recording later. So we can have a big round of applause at the end, just not after individual questions. So each candidate will open with a 2-minute opening statement. They will have 1 minute to respond to questions, and at the end, they will have time for 2-minute closing statements. The questions for today were developed based on suggestions from the community. Some of them were given to us in advance, and some will be collected from you who are here tonight in the audience. We are passing out index cards. Annie has them in the back. So if you have a question or get inspired at any time during the forum tonight, just raise your hand and she will come bring you a card. We just ask that you please write legibly, because if we cannot read it, we cannot say it out loud. And at some point, we may cut off questions just because we can't collect them right up to the end. So I will let you know if there's a last call for questions. And also want to let you know that your questions may be modified for clarity or to combine them with other questions that we already have. So don't be upset if it's not written exactly as you put it on the card. Great. So today we are joined by candidates for Supervisor District 5, Kevin Evans and Ted Williams. Todd Lilly is not with us this evening. So thank you for joining us today to share your views and your plans for Mendocino County Board of Supervisors District 5, which covers a geographically diverse area that goes from the town of Mendocino on the coast across the whole southern portion of the county to Sonoma and Lake County lines. You may now make your opening statements, and we will start with Kevin Evans.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Mendocino Women's Political Coalition for hosting this first in-person candidate forum. So thank you for doing that. By way of introduction, I was born in Chicago, and my father was in the military, in the Navy, and his last duty station was San Diego, California. So that's where I was born, or that's where I was raised for most of my life. I attended San Diego State University, but my family could not afford to pay for my college. So I did two things. I got a student loan, and I also worked part-time for the City of Chula Vista Park and Recreation Department. At that time, I worked as a playground leader, and I found the importance of providing a service to community. Little did I know that we were providing affordable childcare at no cost for families that had both parents working. That transition to where I am today, I had a 30-year career with the City of Dana Point, running their Community Services and Parks Department. Upon retirement, my wife and I moved up here. We chose to move to Mendocino County, and not losing that ability and that desire to serve our community, I went ahead and was appointed by our supervisor to serve on the Walala Municipal Advisory Council. And I was also appointed to the Mendocino County Civil Grand Jury. So I was able to really understand the inner workings of our county and what makes it effective and what doesn't. So that is why I'm here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Ted Williams.
I am Ted Williams. Wow, I'm a bit loud. Is that me or the mic? I want to start off by thanking the organizations and noting that this is a significant year for MWPC and that they've been guiding voters for about 10% of our nation's existence. That's a huge milestone. And I was going to say I want to thank these fine gentlemen who are running with me. But I'm going to thank Kevin for enabling us to engage in the democratic process. District 5 democracy is alive. I've been in office for over 7 years, and it's been a heuristic process for me. I've been learning through trying out bad ideas repeatedly. After a while, you figure out those ideas don't work. And what I've noticed is a lot of people who get set this far in call it. They say they've had enough. And I was at that stage. I was actually talking to John Haschek and saying, hey, if you do it, I'll do it. But neither of us were super enthusiastic about another term. And then it dawned on me that that's where the real value comes, that I've made enough mistakes and learned from them. And I've watched other people come in with ideas, streamlining and getting hands-on. And you watch any local government race and you see a lot of the same themes, and they're all well-intentioned, but there's an art to making change in local government, to working with colleagues, to working with staff, to trying to translate the public's wishes into action that can actually be carried out. And of course, you can't get real hands-on in this position because you're listening to the information staff has, you're giving direction, but you're not actually doing the work. You're a bit removed from it. So I've decided to run again, primarily because I think there's more value I can offer at this stage.
Thank you. And I'm going to switch back and forth between who answers the questions first. So you addressed this a little bit in your opening statements, but question one is, why are you running for this office and what makes you the best qualified candidate? Ted Williams.
So I touched on the value proposition of consistency and doing even better from lessons learned. I think that's the core of what sets me apart. A lot of the problems I read about in the news are problems that my colleagues and I have surfaced. And you read about them in the negative context. There's an audit on the county. The county has financial troubles. There's difficulty with reporting. These problems have been in existence for decades. The difference is we're being honest now. We're talking about the core issues, not all of the derivatives that we would see like potholes on the road. But why don't we have the funds to address those potholes? Because the core of county government needs some modernization. And I think I'm in the best position to continue carrying out that work.
Thank you. Kevin Evans.
Thank you. The reason I'm running is really apparent. The county is running in a dysfunctional state right now. The state audit identified that, identified glaring issues with the county operation and how they collected and controlled their budget. We really can't operate, we can't retain staff without an adequate budget. This past December, they reported that there were $30.5 million in uncollected revenues. County is also paying staff to leave. They're paying $25,000 per staff to ask them to leave to try and help balance their budget. There is a better way to balance our budget. There's a better way to increase our revenue. And I think that's the approach we need to look at rather than cutting.
Thank you very much. So the next question is about geographic diversity. District 5 stretches from the town of Mendocino south to Sonoma and Lake County lines, encompassing coastal communities, agricultural areas, and inland towns. How does this geographic diversity shape your priorities as a supervisor? Kevin Evans.
I think first and foremost, we have to be flexible. The second is we have to visit people where they live. It's important to meet with them, understand their issues, and work out a plan together, whether it's an agricultural issue or it's issues on the coast. We need to work in a collaborative effort. We have a Native American community. We have low income. We have problems finding jobs for people. And I think that we need to go to the different locations, understand them, meet them in their backyards, and really make a point to try and solve their concerns in an equitable fashion that will also serve our county as a whole.
Thank you. Ted Williams.
Most of the problems we face in this county are shared. A lot of us think the road we drive on every day is one of the worst in the county, but it's just because we're most familiar with it. Drive out to some of the other corners of the county and you can see we're all facing insufficient revenue in this county, roads that are in need of great repair, a need for economic development, lack of affordable housing. These problems are universal. And so the place to fix those problems is addressing the core of county government, ensuring that we have, as Kevin pointed out, adequate tax collection, which doesn't come from the Board of Supervisors, comes from other elected officials. It's our job to make sure that we're supporting the core of county government so that they can carry out their work. The geographic diversity, I'm out of time. More to come.
More to come. The next question, you can elaborate if you wish. It's really just, you've both mentioned a lot of different priorities. What would you say are your top 3 priorities for the county? And we'll start with Ted Williams.
I think the general government, the core functioning of county government is the #1 priority. There's talk about economic development, and a lot of times it raises the question of which sectors do we want to support, how do we want to support them. Our best hope for economic development in this county is to make county government operate timely, predictably, level the public can trust. And the way you do that is supporting county employees. Imagine if this county were known as the best local government employer north of the Golden Gate or north of Sonoma County. You would retain talent, you would bring in talent. That strength comes from the county staff. It doesn't come from the board engaging in special projects or looking at individual community needs. It comes from having a strong core.
Thank you. Kevin Evans.
Thank you. My top priority, we can't do anything in this county without money. So we need to address our budget. We need to address the issues identified in the state audit. We need to maximize our bed tax, our TOT, and our sales tax. Sales tax is what helps fund our Measure P. But the other thing we need to do is make sure that we have strong employee recruitment and retention. We have to support our employees. And lastly is there needs to be a trust and accountability for all levels of government. And it starts with our Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. The next question is about affordable housing. What ideas do you have for addressing affordable housing along the coast where property values make it especially difficult for working families and essential workers to remain in the community? And we will start with Kevin Evans.
Thank you. I appreciate that question. The Board of Supervisors really took a stand in allowing corporate and outside investment into housing in our communities. That's going to reduce our workforce housing. It's going to reduce our housing industry, and it's going to impact all of our local businesses that rely on affordable housing. By corporations coming and buying properties at top value, that's going to make it unaffordable for anybody, whether a new home buyer or trying to get long-term housing. The other problem is that by reducing the workforce housing, by focusing on short-term rentals, we're going to run into a problem that we're not going to be able to provide services in our community.
Thank you. Ted Williams.
A county can't control where buyers come from. Somebody from Kansas can buy a house here. A corporation can buy a house here. It's important to look at what we actually have control of. One thing we have control of at a local level is land use. We can revisit the general plan. That's the opportunity to create opportunity for more development. And that comes from the people. We need to talk about where we want that development. A lot of times I hear people say we need more housing. And then the next paragraph, we don't want development. We need to get realistic about how we want to build out our towns, where we want more density. Where you have infrastructure, building is more practical. I've heard that the permits hold people back. Permits on a 3,600 square foot house studied by the county about a year ago, $15,000 versus $400 to $500 a square foot for the new construction. It's a very small component.
Thank you. The next question is about homelessness. What ideas do you have for addressing homelessness in our county? And we'll start with Ted Williams.
Well, I actually think there's been great strides. Supervisor Mulhern has been incredibly active on this for a long time. And the support for addressing homelessness comes from state and federal sources. And we all know that federal policies shift over time. Right now, a lot of us are terrified about what HR 1 means. And you may not tie HR 1 directly to homelessness, but I'm convinced that it has the potential to create more homelessness. Homelessness has comorbidities. There's mental health, there's substance abuse. Economics is certainly a component of it, but usually not the driving force. And the county has moved in the right direction, and we need to stay the course.
Thank you. Kevin Evans.
Thank you. I would agree with Supervisor Williams that it is a Health and Human Services responsibility. Right now, there's $25 million that is available to be spent to address health and human services issues throughout our county. Last reporting that I read, it said that the county is only spending about $10 million. We need to take that extra money. We need to invest it not only in the core areas like Ukiah and our larger cities, Fort Bragg, but we need to expand into our rural communities because there is on the South Coast and through Anderson Valley, there is a need for health and human service providers to help take care of the people that have substance abuse problems or mental health issues. And I think that's the best way to address homelessness is hit it at the root, and that's addressing our health and human service issues in our county.
Thank you. And you can both expand on what you've just mentioned when we talk about coastal services. The Mendocino coast has long struggled with access to healthcare, mental health services, and social services. What would you do to improve service delivery to coastal and rural residents who face long drives to reach county services? Kevin Evans.
Being one of the people that are exposed to those long drives and the minimize health services. We have a triage center, and everything from there is then transported out of the area. We know that impact. Much like everything else, everything centers like a stone in a water, and then the ripple effect goes out to the outlying areas. I think that's the same thing that we're facing here. Is a lot of the money is being focused currently within the Ukiah area, primary area, and then it's expanded out. Unfortunately, our rural counties are not getting the equity of spending to help take care of the issues in our rural areas. They're focused more in our towns, and I think we need to look at expanding and sharing that costs and providing services throughout our county.
Thank you. Ted Williams.
County government doesn't provide most of the health services, but it certainly has a role in collaborating with partners. Even before the big, beautiful bill, HR 1, it was clear there's not enough business for providers to compete. It's really about collaboration. I think the county can be that conduit to help bring partners together. And in the case of HR 1, look at how to bridge the gap in services that we're anticipating. I think if I talk about it enough, maybe somebody will begin taking me up on community paramedicine is in state code. And it's an opportunity to have a nurse on an ambulance come out to the patient and working with medical direction, address some of the problems in the field. That's an opportunity that we could look at in our county. And I know the South Coast, Mendocino has had a great win with the clinic on a trailer. That same idea could be expanded throughout the coast and county.
Thank you. So the next question is about economic development. What do you believe are the impediments to economic development, and what strategies will you pursue to diversify and support it in District 5 and the rest of the county, including tourism, agriculture, and the wine industry? Ted Williams.
Yeah, I think it's important that we try to constrain economic growth to what fits the character of this county, what we think is environmentally compatible, but also within that scope, not choose favorites. Work on making government predictable, making sure opportunities exist, that we have a general plan that can facilitate it, working with outside partners like West Business Development Center. On the county side, I tried to do away with business licenses. I think it's been 3 times now. Lake County, other than 6 particular types like piercings and Christmas trees, presumes that businesses are operating legally. And we found that it costs the county more for our permitting process than we bring in revenue to get cost recovery. So I think there are some opportunities for the county to clear a path for early stage businesses to start and expand with a little bit less paperwork.
Thank you. Kevin Evans.
Thank you. I really think that we need to show a partnership with the county and our local businesses. Defunding Visit Mendocino, which was one of the primary sources of advertising for our communities, to bring tourists here to engage with our local businesses, generate both sales tax and TOT tax revenue. But more importantly, these same people that come here because they want to see what Mendocino is all about, they may elect in the future to move here. So now we have an investment in not only having people move here, but we're also investing in our businesses that generate money, our hotels, our wineries. We need to really take a partnership in this and not have them stand alone, but really work side by side to make our economic growth viable for everyone.
Thank you. The next question is about budget. What are the county budget priorities? Where can spending be reduced and revenues increased? Kevin Evans.
The first thing I don't believe we should reduce, and that's in our staffing. Having been in municipal government for 30 years, there are areas that you can reduce the budget, but more importantly, it's going to the department heads. They know how to operate their departments. They know where they can cut money at the present time and have it brought back. funding of memberships, travel, those are not essential items for the operation of the county. Those are areas that they could look at reducing rather than reducing staff load.
Thank you. Ted Williams.
Most of the county budget is from state and federal sources, and it's earmarked for specific purposes. Essentially, the county is acting as an agent on behalf of the state to carry out work. The discretionary portion of the budget is much smaller. Those are the dollars that we vote on for uses within our discretion. Of that, about 3/4 is spent on public safety, what I would call criminal justice, sheriff, district attorney, jail, juvenile hall, a little probation. And then what the remainder is spent on the departments that support them, the tax collector, the assessor, HR, the people that facilitate bringing in revenue and running a county. So there's not a lot to reprioritize. It's true. We do need to bring in more revenue. The way to do that is to support the elected offices that are responsible for the revenue side of the equation, the assessor, the auditor, controller, or tax collector.
Thank you. The next question is about ICE. What considerations and recommendations will you make regarding immigration and customs enforcement operating in Mendocino County? And we will start with Ted Williams.
Well, I'm not at risk, so it's easy for me to wave the flag and antagonize the federal government. But I don't think that's the best for all of the people. I think there's some wisdom in finding a way to take a stand, but also lay low and not become a target. Certainly, we're not going to assist with that process. We're not in the business of immigration enforcement. And I think we're fortunate to have a sheriff who has also stated that is not his priority. At the same time, we want to let the people know who are vulnerable that they have our support, they have our backing. It's a tough time, and a lot of us are sort of holding our breath, waiting to get through this period.
Thank you. Kevin Evans.
Thank you. I also support the sheriff's position that he doesn't take an active involvement in ICE intervention with our immigration. However, I think what we're finding is the most important component of all of this, and that's us, the community. The community is coming together. They're creating an environment and a support base that notifies and protects the people that need our help. And I think the county can support by making sure law enforcement is supportive of our residents first, and that we, the community, should take an active engagement in making sure that our neighbors are safe and can notify everyone either through the whistles or phone calls or any type of messaging to make sure that they're fully informed on what's going on in their communities.
Thank you. The next question is on cannabis. Are there changes you will pursue for the cannabis industry in our county? Please address small growers, taxes, regulations, and illegal grows. Kevin Evans.
First and foremost, I think what happened with the cannabis philosophy was that would be the silver bullet that would help fund a lot of the county's budget issues. In doing so, I think that we sacrificed the people that got here, the small growers, the independent farmers that were cultivating their own operations. And we sacrificed that to try and make money by inviting corporate and outside companies to come in, undercut the cannabis sales, and they also made it more prohibitive for the local grower to be able to operate. And I think we truly need to support the people that got us here first, and that was the local cannabis growers. And then if we need to supplement that, then look towards outside corporations. But I don't think we should sacrifice the people and the businesses that got us here.
Thank you. Ted Williams.
Yeah, I mean, the tenet of equal protection, you can't be choosing who has the right to cultivate in Mendocino County. I have a lot of, I grew up here. My grandparents had a house on Main Street. That's where I began in town of Mendocino. I have a lot of friends that are from other places. And so I don't want to be picking and choosing who has roots and how deep are those roots. People can come from other areas and engage in business in our county. Today, the Board of Supervisors, myself included in a majority, uh, waived the 1819 tax collection when a lot of cultivators probably weren't able to produce a yield, got rid of the minimum tax that was hitting them with 10,000 irrespective of how much they produced, trying to clean up that ordinance. By the time I came into the county, the ordinance had already been established. Shortly after it got locked in under state code, there was an opportunity to change it without going through multi-million-dollar environmental review. That time has come and gone. The biggest difficulty for a cannabis cultivator is the price has fallen.
Thank you. The next question is about county employees. What ideas do you have for improving compensation and working conditions for county employees? We'll start with Ted Williams.
I have to be careful with the county's negotiations right now, so I'm not talking about anything related to negotiations. In the abstract, I think it's not a strategic plan to have underpaid employees if you want to build a strong organization. And along with my colleagues, I've supported throughout this period trying to get our employees to market. That's one component of it, having comparable pay. There's other elements of it, of having management that's lifting up all employees. Work from home policies, trying to work on solutions to childcare, problems people face when they go to work and they have families to take care of simultaneously. I think there's a lot more the county can do. Obviously, it's a juggling act of balancing priorities between increasing staffing because employees are overworked or paying the employees we have more. It's hard to do both at the same time. I've favored trying to have as many living wage paid employees as we can, focusing on taking care of who we have first before we grow.
Thank you. Kevin Evans.
Coming from a municipal background and being a department head, I realize the value of the line employee, the line staff. They're the ones that carry the heavy load for any organization. I believe that if we're going to fund any positions at a living wage, it needs to start at the bottom and work up. We need to support the people that are in the field, whether they're the people working on the road crews, they're in the home social services program. They're the people behind the counters that are processing the permits. That's the people we need to make sure that they're fully funded because they're the ones that are investing their time, their families to be in this community, to live in this county and make a difference. And we need to make sure that they can live here and not have to be forced to look outside because they cannot make a living here.
Thank you. The next question is about official misconduct. How will you address accusations of misconduct by an elected county official? What do you think is the correct procedure for removing an elected official from office? Kevin Evans.
Very good question. And that's the one that I'm constantly getting as we travel throughout the county. Not understanding all the particulars on the case that was just decided against. But I think the state has identified 3 processes for removing an elected official. One is a term out, so you don't vote them back in. The second is an impeachment. And the third is a criminal case. But the process that's identified by the state is simple. The district attorney impanels a criminal grand jury. The criminal grand jury looks at the facts and determines whether or not that case should go to trial. The county didn't follow that. And I think, unfortunately, that has been an unfortunate decision by our Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. Ted Williams.
In a city structure, the city council is at the top of the organization, likely has a city manager, has a chief of police. You have a top-down structure. That's not the case in a county organization. In a county in California, you have very fragmented leadership. You have, this is all the way from the state constitution. You have a district attorney who's elected, who's not overseen by the Board of Supervisors. We don't get to see his evidence. We don't get to encourage who he should charge, whether he should continue forward, whether he should drop a case. I've probably talked to the district attorney maybe 4 or 5 times in my 7 years, mostly in passing at events like this. I don't think he wants my input, and the sheriff situation is kind of similar. Law enforcement is elected by the people in a county, and they see it as the Board of Supervisors' job to fund them, but otherwise stay out.
Thank you. Our next question is about climate and coastal erosion. The Mendocino coast is on the front lines of climate change, with coastal erosion, sea level rise, and wildfire risk all converging. What role do you see the county playing in addressing these threats? Ted Williams.
A lot of issues people bring to me, I have to point out that's state or that's federal, that's not, or it's another elected official. This is one that's truly under the Board of Supervisors. It's land use. It should be addressed. We have development that's within a zone that'll become problematic between now and the end of the century. And we don't know exactly when. We know the cliff is eroding today. And we know with sea level rise, there will be saltwater intrusion and there will be more bluff properties put in jeopardy. We certainly shouldn't be adding to that problem, because as it becomes a disaster situation, it'll likely be public dollars, your taxes, that go after addressing that problem. I think one of the county's role is to do good research, trust the science, develop maps, update zoning in the general plan to begin addressing the problem.
Thank you. Kevin Evans.
I think first and foremost, we need to update the local coastal plan to address the issues that are currently impacting with a sea level rise. Working with Grassroots Institute and some of the other organizations that are environmentally engaged in making sure that we protect our environment, the one we have. They're the ones that can be our advisors. They're the ones that can help engage with and educate the public on what we need to do. And I believe the Board of Supervisors should trust these organizations, meet with them regularly, use them as advisors to establish a sound plan to address those when we do the general plan update, this local coastal plan, and in our case, the Walla Town Plan.
Thank you. So a related question regarding the Jackson Demonstration State Forest. What is your position on the management of Jackson Demonstration State Forest, and how would you work with state agencies on behalf of local communities? Kevin Evans.
First and foremost, I support the Jackson Demonstration Plan to use it as an eco-friendly ecotourism program. We need to protect our environment now. We can't wait till later. I think there's a sound plan before the state to do that. But by doing so, we've made sure that we engaged all the necessary key stakeholders in making a sound decision on what we can do with the Jackson Forest Plan. However, I do have to admit that even though we have all the information, we do need to listen to the other side, the people that are the timber harvest businesses that their lives or businesses have relied on that timber harvest. We can't neglect them, but we have to bring them into the conversation.
Thank you. Ted Williams.
Yeah, for me, this started a couple of years into office, around 2021, 22. I brought a resolution to the county. It was actually written by Karen Bowers, who's here in the audience. And I remember people kind of sneering that this isn't going to go anywhere. You're not going to be able to count to 3. Actually, we had we had a lot of public comment and then full board support. We asked the state for scientific review. And some of us were surprised when the deputy director of the State Resource Agency showed up at our meeting and really heard us and began talking about tribal co-management. Then Chris Rogers and I ran in a race together for state assembly. Chris and I became friends in that process, and he introduced a bill for AB 2494 that would prioritize recreation. Some other changes like climate, focusing on climate resiliency and forest health and restoration. And we know that that restoration work would create more forest worker jobs than the timber harvests of today.
Thank you. The next question is about the Great Redwood Trail. What are your thoughts on the Great Redwood Trail, including concerns raised by Native communities about its impact on ancestral lands? Ted Williams.
Yeah, so my default position is to say yes to tribes. Always respect their concerns, try to mitigate. I've, over the years, I've raised some concern about the Great Redwood Trail, primarily that it needs to be funded. It's not enough to just create a trail because county resources think somebody's lost, doesn't come back on the trail, somebody gets hurt out there. You have volunteer fire departments that will be responding, or the sheriff search and rescue, and those are finite resources that are already tapped thin. Trail is a fantastic opportunity, outdoor recreation, untapped economy that's clean, compatible, could bring a lot of dollars in and create jobs. But the state needs to follow through with properly funding that project. And I think they've heard us, and I think they've come a long way to meet our concerns.
Thank you. So we have a question from the audience, a follow-up on an earlier response about budget. So how would you propose to increase county income without cutbacks? And we will start with, oh, did you answer the question, Kevin?
No.
I'm sorry. Please go ahead and answer the question on the Great Redwood Trail. Yes.
Can you please repeat? I'm sorry.
What are your thoughts on the Great Redwood Trail, including concerns raised by Native communities about its impact on ancestral lands?
I would agree with Mr. Williams that yes, the tribal communities, they need to be respected, they need to be heard. And we need to try and find a way that of compromise so we can accommodate and address their concerns, but also develop a trail that we as a community, we're being more and more active. People love to walk, people love to see our environment. This is a way to provide a path for people to enjoy. The Great Redwood Trail is a state funded item, but I believe that the county's support in making sure that that plan goes through, that we get enough of the key stakeholders and investors to rally around and support the item, it's going to be a benefit economically and conservationally for our county.
Thank you. So now I'm going to circle back to the previous question about the budget. So the question from the audience is, how do you propose to increase county income without cutbacks? And we'll start with Kevin Evans.
First and foremost, I think we need to provide an adequate staff to be able to process our property taxes in a timely manner, to be able to assess properties. We have a lot of new development and new construction and new home sales that will generate revenue for the county because it will be post Prop 13 development. We need to also support our local hoteliers and our short-term rentals because they provide the bed tax revenue that we enjoy here in the county. From Westport all the way down to Wallalon, all through Anderson Valley, the short-term rentals, over 2/3 of them occupy those different areas. I think we need to focus on making sure that they're successful. And we also need to work with the vineyards because they're going through a problem right now with the low production of wine and low sales. We need to work with them to help them be successful.
Ted Williams.
Urban counties, say San Diego, have whole teams that are responsible for making sure they bring in every available dollar to provide services. Remember, most of the money the county spends is from state and federal sources. A small portion is under local discretion. It's very likely that Mendocino County doesn't have the same expertise and staff time to make sure that we're getting every dollar that's due to us. That's an area where we could improve. Growing our economy, we touched on outdoor recreation. All corners of the county have opportunities for outdoor recreation. You see Bend, Oregon bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars from their economy. People want a mountain bike in the winter. Those opportunities exist here. Jackson State Forest, 55,000 acres. That's essentially untapped for those kind of events. When there is an event, say the ultra marathon, I think this last year it sold out in 4 minutes online. It shows that there's adequate demand, but recreation has not been a priority on state lands.
Thank you. Okay, our next question is from the audience tonight. What is your relationship to tradition and change? How will you balance these when advancing progress? We'll start with Ted Williams.
One of the things I like about going to classrooms with kids to talk about politics is they're 100% about what we should do. A lot of times we get adults in the room and we get together because we want to stop something. And, if it's a toxic coal train, I'm with Senator, we need to stop that. But I would like us to see us put equal effort on what we do want, not just what we don't want. Because if we want to build something in this county, look at how much opportunity we have. People come here because of natural beauty, because of the experience. And we need to figure out how to capitalize on that, but also protect it. I don't want to see, Santa Rosa on the Mendocino coast. A lot of the people who are here because of the character, but that doesn't mean we say this is it and there can be no development at all. I think there can be opportunities. It's up to the people to steer it, not even the elected officials. It's our job to carry out the people's wishes, but we need to do a better job of, just like a general plan update, getting people to talk together to talk about how we want to grow the economy.
Kevin Evans.
Thank you. I think first and foremost, we need to support and acknowledge the people that live here. We have many instances where we have multi-generations that have invested their time, their life here. This is why they live here. We have people that have moved here because of the beauty of Mendocino County. We need to invest in the people, and we need to make sure that we don't cause a situation where we encourage outside development that impacts the people that have been here, that invested their lives, the husband and wife businesses that have been here for multi-years, to have a chain operation or a large amount of short-term rentals come in and impact our current inventory. So I'm all about a measured growth, but I think we have to support the people that are living here right now and then build from that.
Thank you. So here's another question from the audience tonight. How should county government interact with and support healthcare? Kevin Evans.
I think county government has to take an active involvement in it, working with our federal government, with our state government as well. Medicare, Medi-Cal, all these cuts are really going to impact us. We need to develop a plan to address that. Make sure that our rural clinics are able to staff up. Make sure that we're able to provide, much like Measure P, the funding to help support those services in our community. Healthcare is going to be important, especially as we are aging. We have a population that in health and human services that need our assistance as well. We have the money, we have to invest it wisely.
Thank you. Ted Williams.
It starts with asking the providers what county government can do to assist them. We're not in a policy, we're not doctors or nurses, although we have some in our public health. We're not in a position to guide the healthcare industry on fixing healthcare in Mendocino County. But we're certainly in a supportive role to work with them to figure out their needs. If it's land use, if it's zoning, if it's collaboration between partners, there are opportunities. Some of us believe that it's time for universal healthcare. And, outside of this race, we need to be continuing to lobby our state representatives and I know our Assembly member Chris Rogers believes in universal health as well. We should bring him here and ask him how we can support that effort.
Thank you. So this is a broad question about the role of supervisor. What is the scope of responsibility and jurisdiction for the office of county supervisor? And how does government administration compare with private business administration? Ted Williams.
Well, it's a government business is a lot slower by design. You can't have an idea show up at the office and just begin carrying it out, especially if you're a supervisor, because as a supervisor, you have no authority. In this county, you have no staff, you have no district budget. So I have people come to me with a great project and they show it's a small dollar amount, and I have to point out, I have to get it on an agenda. I have to convince at least 2 of my colleagues that it's a good idea, and I have to figure out how we're going to fund it. There's not a pot of money available for special interest projects. You go to Sonoma County, they have excess earnings, they have excess revenue, and they're going to do something great with it every year. Somebody will be happy, whether they create a park or they subsidize some aspect of healthcare, they're adding. Mendocino County, we essentially have declining buying power year to year. As we go forward, there's less to work with. And so you have a board of supervisors that has this terrible job of figuring out what do we cut, or how do we try to provide the same as what we did last year with fewer resources in real terms. It's a challenge.
Thank you. Kevin Evans.
I think first and foremost, we need to really identify the roles of both the supervisors and staff. The supervisors are there to create policy. It's the administration that's there to administer those policies. We have some excellent staff from the department head level down that know how to operate their businesses, their operations, their departments. They know how to manage morale. If the Board of Supervisors starts getting engaged in that and micromanaging the departments, requiring them to come to the Board of Supervisors to request job positions, I think that's counterproductive. I think there should be some trust in the department heads to understand how their departments operate, and the staff, they're the ones that know how to make it work.
Thank you. And my final question before we move into the closing statements. What is one thing about Mendocino County that you think is underappreciated or underutilized? And what would you do to protect and promote it? Kevin Evans.
I think the thing that we're most underutilized are the resources and benefits that we have for people visiting here. We are the best kept secret. We don't do enough to promote our businesses, our tourism. We're not selling our community. Unfortunately, we're going in the wrong direction with some of our decisions that is really creating a lack of confidence in our county operation. I think we need to make some sound decisions, make sure that we're financially solid, and that we are an attractive place for people to come visit, work, and live. So thank you.
Thank you. Ted Williams.
I personally like river kayaking. I think about all the opportunities to enjoy nature, and I know that's why a lot of people come here, whether to raise families, to retire, or to visit. And certainly we need to invest in that best we can. My mind is going in all directions. There was a time during the pandemic when the CEO said, was telling me how many people were calling our call center, and I pointed out I had something like 720 between calls, Facebook Messenger, text messages just that day. And so it's incredible the variety that's available in this county and how people see it, and we need to figure out how to embrace all of those ideas coexisting.
Thank you. And now we will move on to 2-minute closing statements, starting with Ted Williams.
So I started with, I had some hesitation and then recognized that the value that I could give back is the experience built over the last 7 years, watching myself struggle with how to make change, how to take the public's ideas and translate it into action to reach the goals. I think I can do better in the next term. I think I have learned a lot of those lessons the hard way, and I think I've watched both colleagues and staff struggle with a lot of the same concerns. There's nobody who works for the county who doesn't want a similar outcome, wants the county government to be strong, efficient, wants it to be a rewarding, safe place to work, wants living wages for everyone, wants the public to benefit, to be able to build businesses, to be able to enjoy the place to the greatest extent. The struggle is more how to carry that out. And that ability, best I can tell, comes from experience gained working in the system. And so I'm asking for your vote. I have the endorsements of largest bargaining group, SEIU 1021, Home Health 2015, Planned Parenthood. And I think it's because they recognize that the consistency and continuity is going to get us somewhere. That we're on a trajectory where, despite swipes in the news and certain messaging, I think the county is a lot stronger today. I think it's come through surfacing a lot of difficult topics. A lot of those truths are unsettling. Figuring out that we have a system of accounting that's based on paperwork. So you can't run a report no matter how good your software is or no matter how eager your staff is to comply. And I think we've made strides, and we need to continue down that path.
Thank you. Kevin Evans.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you again for putting on this forum. I think we have a very, very important decision to make on June 2nd. Many of us have held jobs. Many of us have hired people. The Board of Supervisors and most, if not all, elected positions do not have a job description. They do not have a minimum qualification. The only criteria they need is to have one more vote than the next person to be elected to the office. What you're doing is you are electing someone. You're the employer. You employ the board of supervisors. They work for you. You need to look at and understand their experience, what their proven track record. Is that someone that you would hire to run your business or not? And I think that's the decision right now that us as voters have coming June 2nd. Are we willing to wait another 4 years to decide if maybe we'll get it right this time? We've had 7 years. We had a survey that came out that said the Board of Supervisors was at 30% approval rating. We have an unbalanced budget that caused the state of California to give us $800,000 to tell us how to manage our own budget. All of us in our own home, our businesses know how to manage budgets. And I don't think this is a training ground for potential future supervisors. We need someone that has the experience to step in and work with the departments and the county from day one. And I ask your support for Kevin Evans for supervisor. And you can check out my website, voteforevans.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that concludes, you can clap now if you'd like to. All right, we're now going to transition from the supervisor candidates to the judge candidates. So we'll take a few minutes to make that transition. We'll be right back.
Any particular spot you would want me to be?
I hear you have plates.
I do.
Common ground.
Common ground.
Yeah, I do too. Mine are 28.
It's a tough road to be sure.
Yeah, it's a couple of years.
That away, although I don't think.
I don't think you touched it. All right,
How old are yours?
11.
Boys?
All boys.
Oh, you have to watch. I know what I look like. All four
Okay. Realized. Blocked you a little bit.
I'll be okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's it. And then, did you ask attorneys first?
Okay.
It's clearly somebody that asked. But then,
Okay, good. You ready? Timekeeper, you ready? She's ready. You're ready? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get us started. All right, we are starting the second portion of our candidate forum tonight. Candidates for judges, I should say. Judges for candidates. So we will start with opening statements. Let me just review. Just a review for our candidates here. You'll have 2 minutes for your opening statements. You have timekeepers that will keep you on time. You'll have 1 minute to answer the individual questions. And then at the end, you'll have another 2 minutes for your closing statements.
Thank you.
So first, and I will alternate who answers first for each question. So for opening statements, we'll start with Patrick Pekin.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. Thanks for putting this on. It's nice seeing everyone. Wish it were a little more crowded, but it's on Facebook, so I suppose it's virtually crowded. My name is Patrick Pekin. I'm a judge with the Mendocino County Superior Court and have been for the past 5 years. During that time, most of my work has been in Ukiah. I've handled criminal matters, including felony and misdemeanor, jury trials. I handled the majority of the time was in family court. That was dissolutions and everything having to do with divorces and child custody. A great focus of my time in Ukiah has been the behavioral health court and adult drug court. Prior to being a judge, I was a defense attorney, criminal defense, for about 15 years. And during that time, I handled all manner of criminal cases, not only in Mendocino County, but throughout the state, including Lake County, Sonoma, Monterey County, San Benito County, pretty much the entire central part of the state. And those were criminal cases, including gang cases, gang homicide, in-prison crime at the Salinas Valley State Prison, and pretty much all variety of matters. Prior to becoming a criminal defense attorney, I briefly worked at the law firm of Gordon and Reese in San Francisco. That's where I went to law school, San Francisco. And it's been a pleasure serving Mendocino County, and I hope to continue to be a Mendocino County judge. Thank you.
Colby Friend.
Yes, hello, everybody. I also thought it was going to be a packed house. I hope the interest when people vote is going to be there, because this is I believe, with all due respect to the supervisors, this is the most impactful race. I'm here to serve people. I'm here to help. I'm here to help the community. Why? I've been a parent since I was 24 years old. I had twin daughters then. They're now 28. And I have 3 children now, 16, 14, 12. And I'm constantly around the youth. I coach teams. I'm involved in all kinds of community endeavors like the community garden, community theater. And I recognize that the youth is our future. And I want this county to have a bright future for them. So I'm here to help. And that's why I'm running. I feel like the court system as it is could use an upgrade. It could use somebody in there that's providing more access, that's listening attentively, and giving fair, impartial judgment. Too often people are denied access, and there's no opportunity to, let's say if you want to settle a dispute, or if you want to, you have any type of dispute with your family or your landlord, or somebody's done you wrong, the court is the most impactful place where you're going to get your compensation. And so we need a judge in there that's going to look out for the people of Mendocino County.
Thank you. So our first question is about your legal careers. Please tell us about your legal background and what led you to seek a seat on the bench. Colby Friend.
I went to undergraduate at University of Virginia, and then I went to law school in University of Iowa College of Law. And in between those two, I lived in California. I'm originally from Massachusetts. So I fell in love with California. It was Tahoe. I came out here, and I knew I wanted to come back to California. So I took the bar in 2004. I passed the bar in California. But then immediately I took a job in Vermont. One last chance to go home and see what it was like. But I only stayed there a year before I realized that I loved California and I had to come back. I came back to Tahoe. I lived there for a few years. And then I started my career really in Mendocino County for the most part, in California. Did you say 10 seconds there? Okay.
It goes fast.
Yeah.
Patrick Beacon.
So I briefly touched on this in my opening. I did go to law school in San Francisco. Thereafter, I worked at a pretty large law firm called Gordon Reese. We did insurance defense litigation, which is mostly corporate law. There were hundreds of attorneys in the firm. I realized quickly I was not a good corporate fit and left. So then I practiced criminal defense. As I said, I was in Salinas. Salinas at the time was a high crime area. It's still pretty tough, and it featured one of the toughest prisons in the state, the Salinas Valley State Prison. So I did street crime there, as well as in-prison crime, which involved prisoners attacking other prisoners and prisoners attacking guards. It's a specialized area of the law. Again, a lot of gang crime in Salinas. Most of the crime in Salinas is gang crime. It's the birthplace of the Norteño criminal street gang. I worked there for about 5 years. My wife and I moved to Mendocino County. We started a business. I ran for judge unopposed in 2020. I've been a judge ever since.
Thank you. So the next question is about judicial philosophy. How do you approach cases where the law is clear, but the outcome feels unjust? Patrick Beacon.
So this question comes up a lot. A judge is required to follow the process. Sometimes a judge will say that the process gets in the way of finding the truth. People will say that. But I'll just remind everyone that people said the very same thing when Miranda warnings came out. A jury trial is a process. A Miranda warning is a process. The law is a process, and that's why we have a term called due process. The judge's opinion on the result is irrelevant. A judge is expected to follow the law, listen to the facts, and do what those two things, when combined, require. A judge can't put their finger on the scales, which is what that suggests. Because if a judge were to do that, they would be ignoring the process, which is in effect ignoring the law.
Thank you. Colby Friend.
Yeah, I just want to touch back on that last question. Just note that I've done family law, probate, criminal law, civil law. So I'm well versed in a lot of different areas of law. I did my first jury trial with John Benke here in Mendocino County back in like 2013. I'm one of those people that says that the truth is more important than the process. And I think it's if all it is process, then the judges will be replaced pretty soon by AI. I think that the whole point of a judge and having a human there is to review is to look at the case with a human element, look at the bigger scope of what's happening. Of course, there's process. Of course, everybody has to have due process and fairness. You have to have an ability to be heard. But it is absolutely incumbent on the judge to figure out the truth. And that is what really matters.
Thank you. So this next question is different for each of you because they're coming from different backgrounds. So for Colby Friend, the question is about trial experience. What types of cases have you handled and how many trials have you taken to verdict?
Well, trials, first of all, I've handled, like I said, types of cases ranging from probate to criminal to family to contract to insurance, litigation, landlord tenant, all kinds of things like that. I don't know how many trials that I don't even know if I could count them up. We've done, I've done jury trial in a criminal law case, which was very informative, two criminal law jury trials. And then we have, it's not just about trials, it's not just about jury trials, it's about evidentiary hearings and so forth. So presenting evidence, I mean, I had to jump in a trial the other day. I had 1 day notice and we came to a verdict there, so.
Thank you. And for Patrick Pekin, about tenure, what do you consider your greatest? I'm so sorry. It's a different question for each of them. Thank you for keeping me honest, though. I really appreciate that.
I'm happy to answer the last question as well.
If you'd like to do that, we can make them even. You can answer the same question.
Sure. Regarding trials, there is a difference between an evidentiary hearing and a jury trial, and it's important to know if a judge has done jury trials. Regarding jury trials, I've done 4 homicide jury trials, and I don't know how many felony jury trials, probably 30. And that's not only in this county, but Lake County and Monterey County and San Benito County. So attorneys are expected to do evidentiary hearings all the time. They happen in family court constantly. As a judge, I sat through, I don't know how many non-jury trials, but there's a difference between picking a jury and not. It's one of the principal things that a judge is expected to do. It's one of the procedures that a judge is expected to be aware of, that is to ensure due process for all litigants. You have to know how to do these things. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question is about 10 Mile Courthouse. The 10 Mile Courthouse seat is currently unassigned following Judge Brennan's retirement. What is your position on ensuring that Fort Bragg has a regularly assigned judge, and what do you think the court should do to fill that gap? We'll start with Patrick Pekin.
Thank you. So Back in 2011 and 2012, California was experiencing a major budget crisis that resulted in a variety of changes to criminal law and criminal procedure, but also it impacted the courts pretty deeply. As part of the budget cuts occurring to that time, it was on the books to close the Fort Bragg courthouse as a budget saving measure. I was part of the Save Our Coast Court program. We ran a campaign. We saved the Coast Courthouse. I have never lost faith in keeping the Coast Courthouse, and I'm currently the Coast Court judge. I believe in access to justice, and I recognize the sheer size of this county and the difficulty of the commute. And so one of my primary goals is to maintain the coast and the Coast Courthouse and access to justice for the people living there.
Thank you. Colby Friend.
Well, this is a place where we'll have common ground. I mean, I want to keep the Coast Courthouse open as well. In fact, I think it would be amazing if we had more courthouses open. Willits had built a beautiful courthouse, and it's now shut down. I had heard that there was a courthouse in Laytonville, and that's shut down. It's hard to get anywhere in this county. It's hard for people from Covelo to get to Ukiah. It's hard for people from Point Arena to get to Ukiah. Or Leggett, it's a big county. So every courthouse is valuable. And I'm absolutely for keeping the Coast Courthouse going. That serves a large population on the coast, and it should keep going. Justice Brennan left some big shoes to fill.
Thank you. The next question is about jury participation. What's your approach to improving jury participation in a rural county where travel to the courthouse is a genuine hardship for many residents? Colby Friend.
Well, for jury participation, I mean, you have to make it comfortable. You have to make it nice. You have to make it something that people would want to do. Too many times people get the jury summons in the mail and they toss it. They don't want to go. I mean, how can I get out of it? It's like a running joke in American society, how to get out of jury service or jury duty. But if people set it up where they're not crowded in one small room, if the courthouse set it up where you had access to your phone charger and maybe even a TV or some nice spread of food, where it was comfortable, and of course, if people could get paid more, that would be better. Obviously the courts are underfunded, and when I get to be a judge, I'd like to pressure the Judicial Council to put more money into the courts. Opening up more satellite courts and paying jurors more to be there.
Thank you. Patrick Pekin.
It's not unique to Mendocino County juror participation. And what Mendocino County used to do was we effectively had juror districts where juries on the coast were drawn from coast residents and jury trials that occurred inland were drawn from inland residents. But California law doesn't allow for that. There's only one place in California that I'm aware of by government code that allows judicial districts. That's LA County. So judicial districts would be helpful in this county, but that's not a question for the judge. That's a question for the legislature because they write the government code, not judges, and judges are expected to follow the law. Currently, our courts are gathering in jurors who have chronically missed jury summons, and we're encouraging people to participate. But I'll just add for the public's knowledge that for any jury trial that I handle as an attorney or as a judge, jurors did find it rewarding. So that's a message for the public.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is about appellate review. When a case is appealed from a lower court and gets a brand new hearing in Superior Court, how do you make sure the parties truly get a fresh, unbiased look at their case? Patrick Pekin.
Well, respecting the appellate review, the most important thing is having a clear record. So presently there is a shortage of court reporters in the state of California. There's also a shortage of Spanish interpreters, but that's a separate issue that we can deal with probably in another question. We have to ensure an adequate record for the appellate court to review, and I actually sit on Mendocino's appellate court panel for misdemeanor cases and lower level civil cases that go to appeal, and I've sat on that for several years. So again, the appellate courts can only review what they know of that happened below and maintaining an adequate record. And that's also the attorney's job, I should point out as well. Making sure that exhibits are admitted into evidence, making sure that arguments and objections are clear for the record, And if attorneys don't understand those procedures and they don't understand how to maintain a record, they're not going to provide an adequate record for the appellate court to review.
Thank you. Colby Friend.
Well, you know, you're not going to have as many appellate reviews if you get it right the first time. And I am all about listening attentively to people and to um, really looking for the truth. And I think that's where, you know, you're gonna find judges that rule on process and people don't feel heard or are not heard, and the ruling betrays the truth. And then you end up in appellate court. And that's what we have to stop. I promise you, the judicial system is your best friend. If you think that the legislature is going to help you out, your legislature is gone, folks. Your legislature has been bought and sold to the corporate donors that support those legislatures. It is the courts where you're going to actually get recourse, and so that's what I'm all about.
Thank you. So I'm going to jump down to a later question because you referenced it. Court reporter shortage. The pilot program allowing court reporters to appear remotely is set to expire. What is your position on it and why? Colby Friend.
Yeah, I think everything should be able to be remotely now. So court reporter, definitely that should go without saying. I mean, you know, we should be allowed to do a lot of things remotely. Traffic tickets should be done remotely. I mean, imagine you have to drive from Covelo to Ukiah to defend a traffic ticket, or Leggett to Ukiah to defend a small traffic ticket. I think any time that we can lessen the burden on people to travel, especially with the gas prices, I think it's a terrific thing. The court reporters, yes, if that opens it up to like a nationwide pool of court reporters, perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for, because as Judge Pekin pointed out, there is a shortage. And so that will hopefully increase the pool.
Thank you. Patrick Pekin.
Well, specifically, the program that you're referencing is set to expire in June. Thus far, I've heard no word of it being extended. It has been extraordinarily helpful for the Coast Court, and I've been sitting at the Coast Court since October, since Judge Brennan retired. It was a big help in keeping it open. And we have had court reporters primarily appear via Zoom to the Coast Court. It's been a boon for the Coast Court. Now, that's for general law where cases are called and arraigned and we have pre-trials, but for preliminary hearings, we still need to have court reporters come to the Coast Court. And that's a big thing to ask for. It's a treacherous road to drive on, and we just don't have enough court reporters. Now, whether or not technology will change that in the future, as Zoom changed court appearances generally, that day might come. Because I'm not the legislature, I'm not going to advocate for what those changes might be.
Thank you. And along the same lines, the next question is about interpreter shortage. How would you handle cases where interpreter availability causes delays? And what would you advocate for at the state level to address this shortage? Patrick Pekin.
Mendocino County spends an enormous amount on court interpreters, and sometimes our budget for court interpreters has gone far beyond what we expected to spend because many court interpreters come from out of county to fill the needs that we have. That's been especially impactful on the Coast Court. And one of the things that we did to at least serve as a stopgap was to have specific days that are court interpreter days in Fort Bragg. So at least the cases that require a court interpreter, we have that day where we handle all those cases on that specific day. But it doesn't just impact court operations, it impacts public defenders. Public defenders need to speak to their clients. That often happens in the courtroom, even in the hallway. And when there's not enough court interpreters, we're not just talking about what happens on in the room itself, but also in the hallways where public defenders are actually trying to help people and there's no court interpreter available. It matters.
Thank you. Colby Friend.
I'm not sure this is a good candidate for remote access, but if it can be done remotely, that would be another way to increase the pool of interpreters. Absolutely, people need to have interpretation. They need to be heard. So if you don't speak the language, or if you don't speak English and you're in court, I mean, you're going to need your interpreter. So we have to do everything we can to make sure that we provide interpreters. And If that means the courthouse thing, advocate for a training of interpreters, then maybe that's the move. I mean, to increase our own pool of interpreters. The interpreters I've worked with are amazing. I don't even know how they do it. They're so good. And I just think that, the more the better. And it's a great opportunity for people that are bilingual to get jobs in the courthouse.
Thank you. So the next question is about coast representation. If you are elected, all 8 judges will reside inland. How would you ensure coastal communities continue to have meaningful access to justice? Colby Friend.
Is the question presuming that the courthouse closes?
No, just where you reside, just where all the judges physically reside as individuals.
Oh, I see. Well, look, I'm going to go where the presiding judge asked me to go. And so if they want me to go to the coast, I'm in Willits. I'm not far from the coast. I love going to the coast. And I'm happy to go out to the coast and provide adjudication from the coast. And as I've already said, I absolutely believe in keeping that court open, and the more cases that can be heard there, the better. And I mean, of all types. So at this moment, I'm not sure if all types of cases are heard in the courthouse. I think Judge Pekin would know better than I. And if they aren't, they all should be.
Thank you. Patrick Pekin.
Same question.
Same question.
I live on the coast, and I have the entire time. I've been in Mendocino since 2009. My children were born in the Coast Hospital. They go to a coast school, and I'm a member of the Volunteer Fire Department, Mendocino, on the coast. So I'm very much invested in keeping the coast court open because, well, in part, I live there. But I shouldn't discount the fact that for the past 5 years, I did commute to Ukiah every single day, Monday through Friday, for 5 years, and I wasn't late a single day, arriving in Ukiah at 7:30 every single day. So
Thank you for that correction. The next question is about mental health. How would you handle cases where a defendant's mental health played a role in the alleged crime? Patrick Pekin.
I handle this every single week because I run the behavioral health court in Ukiah. Also now, since Judge Brennan retired, I also run the behavioral health court on the coast. I run it virtually from Ukiah. So I'm in Ukiah, and then folks on the coast appear virtually from the court in Fort Bragg. I work with the public defender's office. They are fantastic. The district attorney's office helps a great deal in adult drug court. We handle behavioral health cases every single week. I work with social workers, psychiatrists, and psychologists. And the way it's handled is, again, dictated by the legislature. So the legislature has created new laws called mental health diversion, veterans diversion, those kinds of things that deal with these issues. And the concept is that for certain persons who have a qualifying mental illness, they are moved to treatment as opposed to incarceration, so long as it's not a danger to the public.
Thank you. Colby Friend.
Well, mental health is obviously a serious issue in our society, and everybody deserves advocacy and a fair hearing in court. I am in agreement that the behavioral health court is a huge benefit to our society because it helps people who can't help themselves mentally, and provides an avenue for them to be either rehabilitated or treated with the type of respect or the type of sentence that they deserve, rather than just strictly incarceration. So absolutely, we have to keep the behavioral health court going. We have to keep the drug court going to help people that have these type of behavioral issues deal with whatever problems they've come into.
Thank you. The next question is about juvenile caseload. How do you think the court should approach the expanded responsibility for the juvenile caseload, particularly for young people who may be better served outside of the formal court process? Colby Friend.
I'm sorry, did you say juvenile?
Juvenile.
So with juveniles, they're not held to the same standard as adults. And we need to find a way to address their youth and uh, give them the opportunity to correct their wrongs and get on with their life in a way that um, doesn't break them down, doesn't end it for them. They're children. And the court needs to look out for children, needs to respect the fact that they're children, and needs to figure that out. We have minors counsel that helps with that. And, I'm all about the youth. So I'm all about helping children to overcome any obstacles.
Thank you. Patrick Pekin.
Minors counsel is typically something that's reserved for family court. So that's a different area, although juveniles are impacted that way. So guardianships are another area that are sometimes interwoven with juvenile justice is what the term is. And so minors counsel comes into play there as well. Respecting juvenile justice specifically, our court system does a pretty good job. I've often sat on the juvenile criminal calendar. Again, the public defender's office and the district attorney's office work pretty well together, and probation is a significant assistance as well. And very many of the same avenues that are available to adult defendants are available to juveniles with respect to diversions, deferred entry of judgment, and district attorney diversions. And there's principally a great effort to avoid convictions in most cases.
Thank you. So the next question is about sentencing. How do you approach sentencing discretion? Do you lean toward guidelines or case-by-case individualization? Patrick Pekin.
So the guidelines that sometimes people refer to are usually what they mean are federal sentencing guidelines, which have since been done away with. Although many federal judges who are older stick to the old guidelines regardless of any changes in the law. That's not really applicable to California law. California follows a sentencing triad system where if a person is convicted of certain crimes, the judge can choose between the low, middle, or high terms where aggravating factors are found, or choose probation. And the first step is the attorneys. What did they negotiate for? Was there a trial or not? What did the jury find? And then probation performs an interview and they prepare a detailed report. And so generally speaking, a judge is going to work with what they know. Did the judge hear the trial? What arguments did the attorneys make? What did probation come up with? And then a judge is going to make an individualized decision on that basis. There really isn't a cookie cutter approach to it.
Thank you. Colby Friend.
Well, I think this is an area where there needs to be a lot of judicial discretion. It's one thing to have the guidelines, but the way you use them is up to the judge. And, you have to have, I think, severe sentences. You have to put the hammer down on violent crimes. That would be the highest thing, the highest a crime that you would go to the upper echelon of any guideline. After that, it's, maybe robbery, those type of crimes where you're affecting other people, with victimless crimes being the least of all. I think it's high time we get rid of this cannabis prosecution. I'm so tired of cops pulling people over for, and then they find a pound of cannabis in their car. It's unnecessary. It causes asset forfeiture. People lose their money. We need to stop that in Mendocino County. We need to be done with the cannabis prosecution totally.
Thank you. The next question is about the new courthouse. What are your priorities for the new Ukiah courthouse opening next year and how it should serve the public? Colby Friend.
Well, the new courthouse, like I said, I hope it has a big, luxurious space for the jurors. I don't know what's going on in that courthouse. It's shrouded in plastic, but the courthouse. I don't think the courthouse has really ever been the problem. The courthouse is that we have is historic. It's beautiful, and it's sufficed so far. The new courthouse should be absolutely accessible. I keep coming back to this theme that when you have somebody that does you wrong, and so many times it's like, corporations ripped you off, the insurance company didn't pay you. You need to be able to get your comeuppance in court. And if you don't, I mean, you're not going to get it anywhere. That's the thing that's really going to change the behavior of people that do wrong things is in the court system.
Patrick Pekin.
And there is going to be some answers that I give with respect to your question, which will include I don't know. My principal focus, I'll remind everyone, is that my intention is to keep the Coast Court open and keep it with as many services are possible. That would include family law, which went away after Judge Brennan retired. Regarding the new courthouse in Ukiah, I was not part of the design process. I understand that there are some criticisms regarding the design as well as the location. And I furthermore understand that there may be some growing pains with respect to its location. Do the public defender's offices get an office in the new courthouse? Does the DA's office get an office there? I realize that there's going to be some moving parts which I will not have control over. So my understanding is California has a system with building new courthouses. We are part of that system. They built it. We're going to have to live with it and make the best of it. I think it'll be fine in the long run.
Thank you. So next we have an audience question. What is the most important case that has come out of the California appeals courts or the California Supreme Court in the last year and why? Patrick Pekin.
In the last year?
Yes.
Might be stumped by that one. I'm trying to think of a 2016 case that came across that I actually reviewed that had a particular impact. I'd have to say more generally, the cases that seem to be, and I can't name anyone specifically, but there have been a series of cases coming out defining and working with mental health diversion. And they seem to come out about every 6 months. Mental health diversion came out and created a law that effectively seemed to state that anyone should get diversion, and then the standard of denying them was extraordinarily high. And now more cases are coming out which are sort of defining that. Various courts are being overturned below as to whether or not they should or should not have granted diversion. It's a developing area of the law. I wouldn't pinpoint any specific case with regard to that, but basically it's about 2 or 3 every few months that come out and define that area.
Thank you. Colby Friend.
You know, I'm also a little bit stumped on the most important case come out of California Supreme Court, but I am going to tell you the most important case that's come out of the US Supreme Court, and that is Citizens United. That has absolutely undermined our whole democracy and allowed corporations to purchase legislators. And this is why I keep saying this judge race is the most important race. The only way you can really make change, the only way you can stop corporations from treating you wrongly, from ripping you off, is to take them to court. When you take them to court, you get a punitive award. That's what shuts them down. If you get ripped off by the insurance company, or let's say even the legislature is making you vaccine your kids and you don't want to vaccine, you're not going to get any satisfaction from the legislators. They're all bought. So you take them to court, and you need a judge that's progressive minded and will rule for the people and protect you.
Thank you. So this next question is from the audience as well. Judicial ethics say that judges must avoid even the appearance of impropriety. Is it ethical to have endorsements from the DA and sheriff and attorneys? Why or why not? And we'll start with Colby Friend.
I absolutely think it's unethical to ask for endorsements from attorneys, from the sheriff, from the police. The key oath that the judge takes is to be impartial. How is it going to be when the sheriff asks you to sign a warrant, to sign off on their warrant, grant their warrant, or the DA asks you to grant a subpoena for discovery into the defendant? You as a person out there, are you endorsing the judge? So you're sitting there in the courtroom sitting across from an attorney that's endorsed the judge. It should absolutely be illegal, really. It should be it's unethical. And I don't know how a judge can call an attorney and ask for an endorsement What's the attorney, how can you even decline that? You can't decline and think that you're going to get fair judgment in a court.
Thank you. Patrick Pekin.
It's not really a mystery or a matter of opinion. So the principal volume that you want to read on judicial ethics is Rothman's, and it contains the canon of judicial ethics and then the various advisory opinions that follow it. I've read it cover to cover. And endorsements from attorneys and judges are perfectly ethical and encouraged. Here's the reason why. It's not a popularity contest. These endorsements signify a recognition of ability and fairness, which is what my endorsements demonstrate. I am endorsed by every single sitting judge, every single retired judge, public defender, the alternate defender, the district attorney, and just about every single attorney on the coast and inland. And these are attorneys who have ruled against and people on both sides of a matter. And there's a reason for that. And that universally, I'm endorsed by the entire legal community in this county for a reason, because I'm fair, I follow procedure, and I follow the law.
Thank you. Colby Friend. Oh, no, that's the
Can
same.
respond if you'd like.
Well, the follow-up question, I'm not sure if it's a separate question or not. The audience wants to know, did you ask attorneys for endorsements?
I have not asked any attorneys for endorsements. I have been offered endorsements from several attorneys, and I have declined them because I would not want to have any appearance of impropriety. So it's not the entire legal community in Mendocino County that's endorsing Mr. Pekin. I think, again, it's just, how would you, I mean, Judge Pekin says he's been endorsed by the DA. How would you like to be a defendant sitting across from the DA who's prosecuting your case and he's endorsed the judge? How does that make any sense? Or again, if a warrant comes before the sheriff and the sheriff or comes before the judge and the sheriff has issued this warrant, how does is the judge going to grant it because he's gotten the endorsement from the sheriff? This is absolutely unethical, and I think that it'll be the first thing I change, or at least pursue changing when I'm a judge.
Patrick Pekin.
A response to that?
It was the question was, did you ask attorneys for endorsement?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I'll follow up with another question that flips that in its opposite. Public trust. What do you think is the most important thing a judge can do to maintain public confidence in the court? Patrick Pekin.
Consistency, having people be heard, following the law, following procedure. So the public has to know that the same rules that get applied to them are going to be applied to the next person and the person after that. And that no judge, simply because they have their own perspective on what the truth ought to be in their opinion, is going to emphasize one aspect of procedure or ignore another. So the public expects regularity, predictability, knowledge, and compassion. And I bring all of those things and have for the past 5 years.
Thank you. Colby Friend.
I think a generation of Judge Judy has made people think that judges are supposed to be a little snarky and impatient and dismissive. And that's not how they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be kind and attentive. They're supposed to listen. They're supposed to figure it out. And too often I've had situations or seen situations in this courtroom where they're not trying to help you out. They're trying to clear the calendar. And that is not what they're supposed to do. And if you want to hold the public trust, you need to absolutely be there for the public, and you need to be accessible. If you are talking to the judge, you're in a small claims court, and you're saying, I'm just making up, Judge, I was in the, you're saying all your facts. The judge is sitting there, and you don't know if it's landing or not. At the end, they have to get those facts right. If they rule on bad facts, you're not getting justice. I'm going to come back to this.
Thank you. Patrick Pekin.
And so the response was?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I can follow up on it if you want. But
Clearly, we're getting to the
No,
end.
no, I mean,
of the candidate forum. Yes.
just to be clear, I wanted to make sure I was listening to you very closely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Speaking of that, we'll move to caseload management. What is your approach to managing a heavy caseload and reducing backlog? And we'll do Colby Friend.
Well, again, it's, if you have a heavy caseload, you got to get through it. You can't get through it fast. You have to get through it competently. It's anytime somebody is before you as a judge, whatever it is that they are there for is the most important thing to them. And you have to take it seriously. And you cannot be in this mode of, I'm going to clear this calendar. I'm going to get you out of here. And it happens too often. I would say that. I want to go back to that last thing. And I just want to say, if the judge takes in these facts and then says to you, okay, so what I'm hearing is Ethel Schmidlap, you were in the library with the revolver, and you go, whoa, judge, no, I was in the conservatory with the candlestick. It's totally different. And the judge says, I'm ruling now, and shuts you up. That judge does not care about the truth. And that's what we need.
Patrick Beacon.
It's not quite clue. So last year, we had a judicial crisis in that we went from what we were supposed to have, which is 8 judges, down to 5. So I was handling the very same calendar that you're describing. On Mondays, it was restraining orders all morning long, small claims that afternoon, all family law cases in the entire county because they weren't doing them in Fort Bragg, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, behavioral health court Friday morning, and adult drug court Friday afternoon. I found a way to manage that by being efficient, working well with attorneys, listening to litigants, but foremost, preparation and reading and researching the law before you hear the case. So people write what they want, you read it, you study it, and then you get attorneys to the critical issue that they need to discuss in the moment that they need to discuss it.
Perfect, thank you. And I think we have time for one more question. Courtroom conduct. How do you handle attorneys who repeatedly miss deadlines or behave unprofessionally? Patrick Pekin.
That's a tricky issue. So there was recently an attorney, and it's an out-of-county attorney. I'm not going to name that attorney regardless, but I feel comfortable in discussing it briefly. And in this particular circumstance, the client really wanted the attorney, even though the attorney chronically failed to appear and file the very motion that the attorney promised to file for months. In that particular circumstance, you have a conflict because you as the judge have to look out for the interests of the client, which means that you might be going against the attorney, but the client also has a significant amount of authority in choosing their own counsel, and you have to balance that. So in the end, I worked with admonishing the attorney, getting the attorney to do their job. But again, you have to be careful with that because you don't want to make the attorney look horrible in front of their client because they're trying to work with each other. So it's a balance issue and it's case specific. But for the most part, attorneys in this county are pretty great.
Great. Colby Friend.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be all kinds of attorneys, and some are going to be more prepared than others. And, it's important for a judge to control the courtroom and to make sure that people are being heard. So nobody's being unprofessional, talking over each other, that type of thing. I had a situation a few weeks ago, actually, where a client came to me. It was a friend, and she asked me to take her family law case. And it was on a Friday, and we were going to go to court on, I believe, Tuesday. So she had a trial. The attorney had dropped her on the Wednesday before, or sorry, the day before, the Thursday. She couldn't get her exhibits in. She couldn't get her witnesses in. I mean, this is absolutely admonishable conduct. Attorneys should be held to a high level of ethics. And I think it's incumbent on the judge to make sure that attorneys know when they're essentially misbehaving in the court.
Thank you. Before we move into closing statements, just wanted to have a couple of announcements. Any MWPC members, remember to pick up your nomination ballot before you leave. Tell your friends that they can watch the recording on YouTube or listen on KZYX on Monday night at 7 o'clock. And thank you to tonight's candidates, to our volunteers, members of the audience, both those here in person tonight and those who watch or listen to this recording. Thank you for staying informed and taking your vote seriously. Now you may make your final closing statements for 2 minutes. Colby Friend.
Well, I want to thank you, Mendocino Women's Political Coalition, for hosting this. I know we're competing with the tacos and Coronas of Cinco de Mayo. Hopefully, everybody out there online is celebrating. And we have an amazing county here. I love it here. I've raised 5 kids here. I own property here. I've started my business here. I could not be more vested in the health of this county. I love the wilderness. I love the landscape. I'm all about trying to uplift the community, try to help. I want people to have access. I want people to have access to courts. I have been personally denied access to the court system here, and that was what inspired me to get into this race. This race should never be run unopposed. I mean, this is a very important race. This is where you really have your opportunity to resolve disputes, to maintain peace, to protect the land, to protect the people. This is where you can take your grievances and actually get results. It's going. You think you're going to write a bill and submit that to the legislature? Good luck. But if you sue a corporation and you say, "Hey, you did me wrong, and I'm going to get those damages, and I'm going to get something on top of those damages to make you fix your behavior," or anybody, and I keep bringing up corporations just because they seem to do so many egregious things, but people, anytime, landlords, tenants, your wife, your husband, anytime there's a dispute, you have to be able to resolve them. That's what the courts are. The courts are here for you. And that's what I want to be. I want to be here for you. I want to be here to listen to you. I am not a lazy person, and I am willing to listen and hear you and give you access.
Thank you. Patrick Pekin.
Thank you. And thank you for hosting this again. It's been a pleasure to serve Mendocino County as a Superior Court judge for 5 years. And during that time, I like to think I did a good job. I kept the courts running when we had a judicial shortage. I expanded behavioral health court. I expanded adult drug court. And that's the reason I'm endorsed by the entire legal community in this county. I have a record of service in this county. I've served with the Mendocino Volunteer Fire Department since 2015 as a badged member. I've responded to every single manner of emergency in this county while serving as a judge. That means fires, ocean rescues, medical emergencies. I've worked to save our coast court both 10 years ago, just as much as today. I worked with the mock trial kids in Fort Bragg High. We took the kids to the state championships, and I want to continue serving this county. It's been the most rewarding experience of my life, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we wrap up today's forum. Thank you for being here.